Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It looks like we still have a couple people hopping on the webinar. I want to thank you for taking time out today, John, to show us Business Central also. So in our journey of looking at possibilities to replace Dynamics GP, we've talked about a lot of considerations, moving to the cloud. A couple weeks ago, we looked at Acumatica, and today John is going to show us Business Central. So on that note, if you do have questions throughout the presentation today, please use the Q&A box. It's in your Zoom toolbar. Type out your questions. We'll have a little bit of time at the end, hopefully, to answer a couple of those. But if not, I can see who asked that and we can follow up with you afterwards. On that note, I'll hand everything over to John. There you go, John. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. And did you start the recording?
Oh, I started it before I talked.
Oh, perfect.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right, welcome everybody today. So hopefully today through this webinar, we're going to step through where Microsoft Dynamics GP is with Microsoft, what Microsoft's plan is, some of the things you should probably be aware of in regards to GP, and again, it's strong following that it has. And then we're going to get into Business Central and show some of the features, functionality, talk about Business Central and what it's like if you're using Business Central versus GP and how that kind of compares and contrasts so you can understand, possibly how you're doing things today in GP and what that might look like in Business Central. So with that, jump right in. All right, so our agenda, some of the statuses between GP, modern life cycle with Microsoft, Dynamics Business Central. You're going to hear many people referring to just Dynamics 365. When you hear the word Dynamics 365, you need to be aware that Dynamics 365 is a suite of over 15 different products. Business Central is one of those products. So if anyone just says Dynamics or Dynamics 365, they're not really being specific enough to know which product they're talking about. And you have to be very certain that you're specifically talking about Business Central. And basically, if you're doing any research on Business Central, you'll find that there are also references to Navision. Navision was a product just like Great Plains was. Microsoft acquired Great Plains. They also acquired Navision around the same time. They're very similar target markets. Navision was more popular in Europe, and GP was certainly a lot more popular in the US. So, again, just keep in mind that if you're doing research on Business Central and you see references to Navision or NAV, it's basically NAV was the GP version of Business Central, right? And then Microsoft has been building that ever since. We're going to look at some of the GP's features, user interface, navigation, searching, so forth, some core accounting tasks, reporting, automations, and then hopefully at the time we have any time for questions, we'll certainly try to take some of those questions. So GP's current life cycle. So back in 2013 through 2018 R2, there was the fixed life cycle, which was where we are today, and still you can see the different dates. So really, if you're on anything prior to what we consider 18.3 in the modern life cycle, you are in one of these other life cycles, which in some cases they are out of extended support, which certainly that would become if you're on 2013. So you got to be aware of that you're not going to get security patches or anything like that. Most people are obviously, when you go up to GP, you're running it on your firewalls on your servers behind your firewalls. And if you've got a good IT company, then you're really not going to be too much exposure, but certainly email functionality, things like that, keeping that all going, interfacing with Outlook, with the changes that have happened with OAuth and everything like that. Certainly staying up on GP would require you to continually take these updates. Microsoft's current life support roadmap is still saying 2028 and beyond. That being said, we're having a good number of long-time ISVs some of the bigger ISVs, Rockton, E1, that are starting to get into where they're saying, right now that they are going to pledge to continue to support GP at least for the next 10 years. So keep that in mind if you're using some of those ISVs. That just kind of shows you the strength of the number of companies that are still running GP today. It's not going anywhere. The big difference being is that we're not going to see significant enhancements in Dynamics GP. We're seeing modern. We're going to see updates every year for any regulatory changes, things of that nature. It's going to, obviously right now we're still looking at 2028. GP is the only product that Microsoft currently still has that does have payroll built into it versus using an add-on for payroll. So that being said, again, Microsoft's pledging through 2028 right now, and the ISVs some of the ISVs are also now even saying 10 years. So that would take us to 2034, right? So keeping that in mind, when you come to the modern lifecycle, Microsoft's pretty much saying that you need to be on one of the last 3 releases. There's 3 releases per year with GP, and you need to be within, to get Microsoft support, they're saying we need to have be on one of the last 3 releases. So basically that's within the last year. That being said, obviously it does require an upgrade. It's not included as part of Microsoft's solution here with GP. So that would require services and things of that nature. So it just keeping that in mind though, that in order to have guaranteed functionality with Outlook and Excel and the Office suite, that's really where that we'll try to stay as current as possible with GP is important. There's still lots of ISVs that are enhancing solutions for GP and continually making them better. So, it's not like it's going away tomorrow. It's just really us planning out what's the right next step in your journey. So those life cycles that we talked about and when they ended, what's important is to, right now, as of October 2023, 18.6 was released. That's considered the current release, and this year 18.7 will be released in October. And of course I have a link here to the what's new. So if you're not aware or you're not on one of the latest releases of GP, then you can certainly use our website and find out what's new. All right, a little demo on GP to Business Central. Obviously everybody sees GP on the left and Business Central here on the right. And so for my demo today, I'll be using remote desktop to one of our servers to run GP. So it's on one of our servers in our office, and I can just jump over there and run that. When it comes to Business Central, I'm going to head and open that up in Edge, Microsoft preferred browser. Some things to know about when I'm logging in, obviously, to GP, right? Logins, you got your username, password, unless you have an add-on that allows single sign-on to be enhanced to GP, right? And then of course you would pick your company, and so you pick which company you're logging into, and so forth. When it comes to Business Central, it's tied to your Microsoft user, right? So your users, as you acquire users for Business Central and you authorize those users to be users of BC, right? And what type of users they are, they automatically. So if I were to sign out here, and it's logging me out, I'll open up another browser page here. It's going to ask me again. This is my account that's obviously with Microsoft. I select that, and it's automatically going to log me into Business Central based on my security permissions and such. So it's not as though I need to remember my username and password. Obviously, all that is tied to Microsoft. So that's really the goal of Business Central, is that it's tied to Microsoft, the stack, if you will. So what is Business Central? It is a true cloud ERP designed for small and medium-sized businesses. What does that mean? Well, you can access it from anywhere as long as you have an internet connection, right? This is going to be hosted with Microsoft. It's in their cloud. When we talk about true cloud platforms, we're really looking at the ability to scale this. So as I change the size of the browser, everything is moving around and trying to fit in place. So it's not fixed like GP is, right? Where, I limit it and nothing moves, and I got to go scroll around to find it. This is, everything's kind of adjusting accordingly with all the screens and such. And if you were looking at, again, it shows them out mobile platform there, And here it is on my screen, right? If I were to go click on sales quotes, you can see it's literally real time. Again, it's all accessing the same information. It's basically the same app is included. So when you're talking about licensing for Business Central, you're getting access to the cloud, obviously, which most people use. But if you're on a mobile platform, as long as you have internet connection, you're going to have access to the mobile platform as well. 2018 is when Business Central was released, and it's based on the NAV platform. So when you look at all the modules that you see in Business Central, and what you get, again, is similar to current GP's licensing model, where you really get the entire ERP solution, with the exception of, okay, you have two flavors. So, and with GP, you have the flavor that includes, if you get the advanced, you get manufacturing, right? Without it, you don't have manufacturing and such. Same thing is similar with Business Central. So when you're wondering about Business Central, you really, for that one user license, you essentially get almost everything you have in GP. There are obviously differences in both. And so, but you're getting that entire suite of products. And then if you need field service or manufacturing, you would go from the essentials to premium. So there's 3 licenses: essentials, premium, and teams. A teams user license is really a light user. So they can get access to some reporting. They can they can get access to some master records, but they have very limited access. So it's really like a self-service user, right? So like GP has self-service users. Teams users are similar to that, but they do have more access to the reporting out of BC. So for those users that really don't need to create transactions, they just, consuming information, then a Teams user might be appropriate for them. And those are going to be a lot less costs. So essentials users are currently $70 a user per month, and premium users are $100 per month, and Teams are currently, I believe, $8 per user per month. These are named users. So unlike GP that has concurrent users, right? So I could have 20 users that use a system, and if I'm running 2 shifts, I might only need 10 licenses because I've got 10 on each shift, and therefore, one logs out, the other one logs in, and whoever occupies that seat. These are named users. So if the person needs to be using the system an hour a day or 10 hours a day, they need a full named user. And you control your users through Microsoft's. You're able to go in and basically turn a user off and activate another user. And so that's how you would accomplish that. Again, Business Central has 2 major releases per year. They call them waves, 1 and 2. And with that, those are automatic upgrades. You do have some control over the upgrade process, but it is a short window of time that you have from the time that wave starts till the time you're accepting that wave. And if you don't get involved with that, then it's just going to happen automatically. And so your users will log in, and they would now be in the new version, the new wave. The reason they call them waves is because they don't do everyone all at once. They do it in waves, right? There's groups at a time. And so you'd be able to log in to your admin portal and be able to see when you would be scheduled, and you could, as long as you act within a short period of time, you'd be able to control when that would be applied to your tenant. There is included storage because, again, you are in the cloud. So, you're not looking at your disk space on your servers anymore. You're really looking at how much storage space do I need with Business Central. So when it comes to the essentials users, you're getting 2 gigabytes for every user. So out of the box standard, you get 80 gigabytes. So if I then have 10 users, I would have a total of 100. And if you're going with premium, you would have 100 gigabytes to start, and then you get 3 gigabytes additional for every user. So you'd end up with 130 gigabytes of storage if you were having those 10 users for the premium edition. So that's how the storage space works with, again, being in the cloud. So you're not really thinking about that. It's all included. All the hardware, everything is included in that license. So here's a quick synopsis of what is included in that price per month. So you get financial management. It says customer relations management, but it's a very, very light version. It's really customers. Don't think of it as CRM. It's not CRM. Microsoft CRM is a true product. BC has a very limited amount of like CRM type functionality. Project management, which used to be their jobs module, they renamed it this year and renamed it projects. So you got project, supply chain, meaning that, obviously sales order processing, purchase order processing, all those components of that are in the supply chain, inventory control, multiple warehouses, bins. It does have a light WMS solution built into it if you were so inclined to need that. Again, it is entry level. But if you're going from, if you don't have one today and you think it would be great, right, because GP doesn't have that, then certainly starting with Business Central's WMS might make sense. For somebody that's already got a WMS, you're going to be looking at an ISV solution that is really tiered to really next level on that type of solution. If you already got a WMS, most likely you would be going backwards if you went to this one. And then of course, here's the premium. They have service orders management, which is field service, and the manufacturing edition. All right, so accessing, all right, GP, we're going to access, it's a server client application. There is a web client, most people don't use it, but it's, again, it's not a true cloud. You're still hosting that, whether you're hosting GP on your servers or with a private cloud or with Azure, any of those are options, but again, it's not a true cloud. I can't just open GP in any browser and connect from anywhere, right, without having to go through some other connection. Business Central, again, true cloud, anywhere, anytime, as long as you have internet access. Now, for some people, it's can be a concern, right? If you're in an area of the country where you don't have solid internet access all the time, then you need to make sure that you have redundancy, because otherwise you'd lose access to your system, right? There is the option for Business Central to be run on premise, but that really limits the functionality that you're going to have. It's a lot harder, and of course you're responsible for your upgrades, so it really doesn't make sense for most people to run BC on-prem. So GP, you can have multiple databases / companies, right? So you basically, there's really, I don't know that there's a limit on the number of companies. It's really just horsepower on the servers and disk space and such as the number of companies for GP. So that's been a big selling point for GP. And without multi-entity management, MEM, or a product like MEM for GP, then the users would have to log in and out of every company, right? Whereas in the case of if you had MEM, then it would basically just be a login right here. You would just click it and you would automatically switch companies. So when it comes to companies that we have some clients that are running 50 companies in GP, they're in one database, right? The user just jumping back and forth between, and they can even do it on a single transaction. So it's very popular with some of the cloud products out there. Like Jen had mentioned earlier, Acumatica, that is one of its features. They'll do that within the product. Business Central does not do that out of the box, but multi-entity management is available for Business Central. So if you do have a lot of companies and you want to make that efficient connections, so when I'm looking at Business Central, right, it used to be that you had to go up to your settings here, and then you would change which company you were in. But now you can just click this button here, and it'll show you your available companies. You can just switch to it. So they've made that easier. So you are able to switch, and again, you can have, Microsoft says up to 300 companies in which are, again, they're not truly separate databases, but they are separate companies that you would see in this list here. And then you'd have to search for that company that you're looking to get into without multi-entity management added to it. Multi-entity management adds functionality such as you can have intercompany balancing, right? So do to froms automatically happening between those companies and things of that nature. So you definitely have the ability to add that to Business Central. For anybody that's familiar with binary stream, they've been in the GP space forever, and then they moved over to the Business Central space, and they've been in that space since Business Central has been around. Again, GP requires binary stream multi-entity management. Anybody that's interested in that, there's a link here, and then link to Business Central. Similarly, there is another product out there that would add some of the functionality that MEM does to BC, but in either case, you just if you need it, you can do it. Otherwise, you'd be setting up separate companies. It is easy to copy companies and create new companies in Business Central. Again, it is going to count against your storage space. And when we're talking about storage space, in addition to having your primary production tenant there. When we talk about an upgrade for an update or upgrade, however you want to refer to it, Business Central, when if you were to want to request a sandbox of Business Central so that we start testing against the new version before it actually gets rolled into your production environment, which I certainly always suggest, then that does count against your total storage. So if I've got, again, that example, I have 100 gigabytes of storage and my current production database grows to be 60 gigabytes, then I would not be able to get a sandbox without first either decreasing my storage usage or acquiring more space, more disk space, available space from Microsoft for your license. So keeping that in mind, very different than obviously GP. All right, so navigation, home pages, GP modules. Again, I'm sure everybody's aware of how GP does this, but for anybody that doesn't use it, because some of the old users really don't use the navigation panes much. So we've got these workspaces over here. I still see users that go up here every time and navigate through the tree. Again, the cards. Again, you have navigation this way, you've got navigation this way, which puts everything in front of you. And of course, you can toggle these, kind of control some of the layout. Within this, you also have these navigation lists on the left, which are pretty powerful when it comes to GP. I mean, there's some real functionality in here for some of these, right? I mean, I like the general ledger batches. I can see all the batches and I can go and select the ones I want, and I can then post from here. I can review them. So just a lot of capabilities. You can add as many searches criteria here as you want, where in smart lists, obviously you're limited to 4. So there's definitely a lot of functionality in here when you're navigating through GP. But again, it's this same user interface. It's not going to change. We're talking about navigating in BC. We're really talking about, first off, what is my my default block up top here. So BC, we've got this top bar, right? And at the top, you have this search, what they call tell me what to do search. And then just recently, Microsoft has added Copilot in to BC as well to help find what you're looking for, as well as help give you information, things of that nature. So we're jumping into BC and we're looking at how do I find something. You know, this up here is determined by my my role. So when I go into my settings, right now I'm selected as the business manager, but if I were the accountant, right, then this top bar is going to change based on that selection, right? So really kind of focusing what is available based on, you know, what role I represent in the company. If I want to get back to my settings quickly, I'll just hit an Alt-T, which will get me back to the settings. I'm going to go back to my business manager role for the moment. And you can see Business Central, the demo data, Kronos, is very similar to what GP has and the demo data. And of course, they lock it, that date to 5/1/2024. So if you're wondering why you might see something on today going through it, you're going to see that date 5/1/2024. But across the top here, you've got these trees, right? It's kind of like GP where you can navigate purchasing, right? I want to see purchase orders. I can navigate there that way. Honestly, I think that a lot of people use it. The tell me what to do. And so if I just type vendors, right, I'm going to see different selections here of different options of what I can do, right? So here are my pages and tasks, right? And if I show all 11, then I can see, okay, I can go to the vendors list, vendor templates, so forth and so on, right? Then we get down here and these are all the reports that we have available that have a reference to vendor, right? And so minimize that. Show less, you know, get into, again, more reporting, and then you could even search help, right? So that's going to jump out to Microsoft and pull up help about vendors. So again, this little tell me what to do is a really powerful little tool to be able to find where you want to go more quickly. I can also mark my favorites, right? So if I'm continually going to favorites, then that's this little guy over here, which is a bookmark. in GP, we have favorites as well, where you can add things to your homepage, right? So, for users that are using that homepage, I go back to my homepage, which can hit the Dynamics back here. Home. Thank you. So here are quick links, right? These are essentially what people consider favorites, is quick links, right? You can have favorites within your smart list as well, but you can edit these quick links and basically build out what is you want to have access to quickly. So in BC, if I go back to my homepage, similar to GP, I click the company name here, it takes me back to my homepage, and I'll have my favorites available. So as I scroll down, you can see it's presenting lots of different information on the screen. So again, pretty powerful as far as being able to find things through different means. Again, not similar navigation. Most people are not navigating through the trees as much because it's easier to search for it and find it, or mark it as a tag, so that way I can get back to it more quickly. A bookmark. So Copilot, that's been recently introduced. I'm sure everybody's probably seen Copilot little logos all over the place from Microsoft. They're really getting behind the AI influence here. So if I were to go into Copilot, it's going to basically, what do I want to do? Do I want to find? Do I want to have it explain something? So if I were to just go down here and say vendors, right, it's going to go out there and search. It does say preview here because they're still building that functionality out, but it has been added to many of the screens, so it can be a little slow. It's not quite there yet, but it definitely is what they're doing. They're adding. So here you're saying, so if I were to type in Copilot Fabricam or I guess graphic design maybe, because I don't know anything else, it's going to go out and it's going to search the system and find that information. Copilot's also very powerful when it comes to being able to kind of, the idea behind it is to use it to leverage what if. So you basically say, show me my top vendors, right? And it's going to go and try and analyze your that request. And so here it found graphic design. If I want to view the vendor card, I can jump into it. Again, so that's really where Microsoft is going with their navigation, is to really use the Copilot AI to really be able to enhance finding what you're looking for inside of BC. And of course, you can see it's keeping track of these. So if I were to go back to Copilot and ask it, top vendors, again, it's going to go through the data and try and figure out who is my top vendors based on just that simple ask, right? If I said, how much open AP do I have this month? Again, the idea is it's going to go and try and tell you that. So you're not having to do that research yourself even. That's really where it's going. I'll let it queue that up. Did it come back? Found 6 vendors in total. These are top vendors. So it's basically picking out my top vendors here. So that's how it would present. And again, if I click on these, I can jump right into that. And Microsoft is adding this to Outlook, really Office, Excel, and they're really trying to really embed Copilot everywhere, really leverage that AI functionality. Again, so GP's navigation lists, like I mentioned, have lots of functionality. Not a lot of people, because they were added after the fact, to use a lot of them, but they definitely, have a lot of functionality. Again, you get in here. Some of them can be a little slow, but definitely when you get in there is where you kind of get the similar feel that if you have Business Analyzer turned on, then it will give you some of the same presentations kind of like you have in BC, right? So it's over here. It's showing some metrics. It's not really showing me anything there on that item, but again, the idea here is going to customers, and maybe that's a better choice. Again, you've got, as long as you have that Business Analyzer turned on in GP, you're going to get that data over here. And these are, so you can get some KPI metrics based on that given customer and so forth. So when it comes to BC, again, similar idea. I'm going to close that down. And we have the information panes. So I'll go back to my vendors. And if I'm on the details tab, you can see all of this information is now filtered for that given vendor, right? So as I'm switching between vendors, I'm getting that information. If I see the balance here and I want to drill into that balance, I can go ahead and click on it. It's going to show me those open entries that are still sitting out there for that vendor. So that's how you're really navigating. Not received, not invoiced. Again, you've got links to this. So similar in GP, but you'd have to go and search those typically through smart lists or run a report. Here you've got those that information pane right at your fingertips, be able to get there quickly. When it comes to attachments, you have the ability to attach. BC has pop-up notes as well, things of that nature that you can activate. Home pages in GP, obviously limited configurability, but you do have it. With Business Central, you have profiles, which basically are the roles that can be personalized. But then when we get into BC, this is where it really gets interesting, is when we go to personalize. Let's say, let me pull up a vendor here, or let me start the list actually. And I go up here and I'll say personalize, as long as I have the ability to do so. I can now move fields around. I can add fields. So if I could plus field up here, and the field exists and it's not on this main list for my vendors, and I can go ahead and add that. So jump up in there, blocked is now a column. All right, close out of that, it's done. And now that's a permanent change that I'm making. So if I go into the screens themselves, you have similar abilities to personalize the screens. So if the field exists, then you can add it. So, and you can kind of control how these screens show. So let me first go into show less, show more. And if I click on any one of these fields, you have options here, right? So can I hide it? Do I want to move it? Do I want to show under the show more, which means it gets hidden unless I expand it? The show more, show less, right? So there's the show more, showing these fields. And again, there might be fields that are not on this screen that I might want to add. So if I had name 2 for whatever reason, I can drag it on there. And now I've got a field. And again, you can move fields around. If I don't want to see a field, I can take it off. Oh, not that way, don't drag it, take it off, hide. And then there's this other option on these fields. So when you show less, in some of the areas like this one was completely collapsed, what does it show up here, right? So that way the key information you want to see immediately, that without having to click, you have control over that as well. So that is the option of just say homepage. So here, and show when collapsed. I'll collapse it. And now I've just added that as well to the collapsed presentation. So again, much more configurable without doing true customizations, to be able to add fields, take fields away, add them to grids. As long as those fields exist, again, you're able to do that type of configuration. So pretty cool functionality they keep adding to BC's interface to be able to do those kinds of things and make it more user friendly, make the data show where you want it to show, the ones that's important to you, right? You don't have to work with exactly where Microsoft placed those fields. You have the ability to configure that. So the action views, another piece. So GP has, if I go back to my homepage, right, we've got Business Analyzer, we've got these to-dos, which are basically smart lists, right? You just tell it how you want to present it, and then you've got these, and this is essentially as close as you're going to get to an actionable tile, right? So are these, but these are actually click-throughs. This is Business Analyzer up here, where you've got all these different metrics, KPIs, right, that are showing if you've got it turned on, but these are not drill through clickable, right? Get into BC and any of the modern platforms. Go back to my homepage. So I'm going to back up. So you see when you click into a screen, typically, if you want to go back to where you were, you just use your back arrow here. You do have the option of pop out a screen, again, which is handy. when it comes to being able to, like, I'm gonna work on this vendor, but I get a phone call and I'm still on that vendor card, I can just drag that off to my other screen, go maybe to, search what I'm looking for, go back to my home page, but it's gonna retain that open tab on the other side, so I can always come back and continue to work on that. So you can pop out screens from BC, and basically you're then able to have multiple screens open, right? In GP, I can't have more than one vendor card open at a time. Basically, any master record card, I can't, or transaction for matter. The one I'm working on is the one I have open, and that's the only one. I gotta go back to the other ones. So these tiles, right? These are built-in tiles, and they're actionable, they're clickable. So, right, if I want to see my maybe my open purchase orders, right, I click the tile, it's going to bring me back to that list. So helpful that these are actionable, right? You can see all the different types. Business Central has full approvals built into it. Obviously, GP added approvals in more later releases. So our workflows in GP are certainly, have been added, and Microsoft did add those. It's just, this is a little more full featured. It's not, so if you add on for GP for, approvals and things like that, then, you might also want to have an add-on for BC, because, but you have to evaluate what is the need of your approvals and how complicated or simple is it. All of these metrics down here, again, Microsoft has been adding and trying to get everything to be clickable, right? So click through, getting you to that data more quickly. So quick links, smart lists as reminders. Again, if you're not using that, it's definitely a big positive. Business Central allows users to bookmark their favorites, which adds them to the home page. The search commonly used for navigating, right, to your screens, your lists, your reports, and it does allow those pop-out windows to be able to do multiple windows at a given time. So again, recap, GPs, we got our navigation, our home button here. Here we've got our nav bar across the top, all right, with our favorites being listed as well. And then again, the home page is accessed here. Here we're going to the company. So again, similar in some ways, but still different. All right. Those Business Central cues / tiles, live clickables. So again, here an example in the slide, overdue purchase documents. Click it, it's going to open up that list. You'll see that list, open up any of those transactions. Again, similar to a smart list, but different. So that tell me what to do. Search your screens, tasks, lists, reports, documentation. Again, you can bookmark those. So, pay a vendor, if I want to bookmark that, then I just click it, and now it's going to be bookmarked. Right. So that's, again, trying to get you that short list of things that are you're focused on as a user. So bookmark access, you're going to see those across the menu at the top. Those pop-out screens have multiple screens at a time. Searching, storing, sharing information. So GP, you got your inquiry screens, obviously, for searching. Microsoft is adding some small feature functionality to help with those search screens. Obviously, most people are relying on smart lists, and then I mentioned the navigation list. With BC, again, if I go in and I do a search, and I search for vendors, you can see here we have vendor list. So anywhere you see lists, that is truly a list versus, like a setup screen, right? So you can see the different lists here. And if I go ahead and click on a purchase order list, again, it's going to jump into it, and then you saw that functionality I have to be able to edit this list. As long as the field is available, you're able to add it to this grid and have it show on there for your users. GP Smart List, again, you can move columns around as well. You just can't do it in most of the other screens in GP, right? The lists can be, you can build filters into the BC list as well. But what you can't do is create custom lists. So Microsoft knows that's still a challenge with BC right today, because smart lists, everybody's used to be able to create all the smart lists they want, right? As long as they have the skills to do so, they can create all the smart lists they want, right? Today, that would still need to be a custom in BC. If I don't have a defined list, then it would either need to be created custom, or there are options out there through AppSource. And when I'm talking about AppSource, if you go out on AppSource, and you get in here and you start searching, you're going to want to make sure that, because there's a lot out there. Again, you got the Dynamics 365, Business Central apps, and then you got different categories. So right now there's 5,505 apps out there. Some of these are all part of a suite of products, and they just list them all separately to give them more presence. But because it's such a large volume of solutions that are out there, you really have to know who you're dealing with, just like anybody else. So definitely don't, even though some of these are free to try, if you actually have Business Central in production, you're not going to just download into a production environment. That's dangerous, right? Because you don't know who these people are. And of course, we are talking about your ERP system, but definitely lots of solutions out here. Again, some of these are free, truly good and free products. But there are a lot out there that you can free to try, or again, you have to know who they're in the space. Many of the companies that are in the AppSource came from the Vision, and so basically they just ported their ISV solution over to Business Central. So as long as they are long-term, reputable companies, just like we do with GP, you don't want to buy something and find out that it doesn't work for you. So same thing, but there's lots of solutions, just like there is with GP, to be able to enhance BC in this case. So GP user defines, obviously, they're very limited without an add-on product for GP. Depending on what records you're looking at, you can kind of give it a label and then it shows up on screen, but they are limited without add-on products for GP. The same thing is essentially true with BC. You don't really have a lot of user-defined fields that you can just create on the fly. There are add-on products that basically make it really easy, really affordable, to be able to basically add potentially new screens, as well as new fields, and potentially even put some logic behind those. So that would be typically an ISV solution or a customization. Again, if you only need one field, it might be just a quick, simple customization that we could do, versus buying an add-on product. But again, some of those products are very affordable and been around for a long time. Business Central document attachments. So I'll show you how it works, standard BC, but there is a free add-on from one of the reputable companies out there that allows you to literally just drag and drop a lot easier than having to navigate / drill in, right? So if I'm here on my purchase orders, right, you can see here attachments, I don't have any. I can go over here. Not necessarily always intuitive, but you're not clicking on the word documents. That's just going to give you Ask Copilot about that. But if you click on the numbers, just like when I was drilling into the balance, right, then here I open up the attached documents. Now, if I were to click attached files here, this is where I can drag a file right up and drop it in there. And so it's automatically going to load that. Now I've got the ability to view that file. Right, it's going to download it, and I can open it up to the modules for BC. Again, this is kind of the list of all the different things you get with BC, right? So that was a short version. Here is a full list if you want it, with all the different capabilities within each of the modules. Right, so pretty easy. You can have as many attachments as you want, and then you can see here flow to purchase transactions. So do you want that this particular attachment to automatically flow to a purchase transaction when you create one, right? You've got the ability to new ones, or edit the list if I want to get rid of it. And simple, you always see these dots. That's really what that's opening up, is again another screen below that. So Microsoft does leverage OneDrive to have access to OneDrive. So if you have things in OneDrive, you can save links here and it'll open from OneDrive. So again, they're really working to make it seamlessly integrating with the rest of the Microsoft stack. All right, so I think that's nice. You see those throughout, those doc attachments. So whether it's a master record, a transaction, you're able to add those additional documents. And like I said, there is a free add-on, so that way I don't even drill in. I just really take it and drag it right on the transaction, and it's going to add it to that screen. The ability to personalize, we talked about that. Sharing info. So I think this is where some of this is what really sets Business Central apart when it comes to the ability to do certain things. So I'm going to go back and I guess I'll use my regular navigation here and go to my vendors, right? And so I'm in the vendor list, and if I go to this button over here, right, I can open an Excel. That's just like a smart list, right? You can add filters into these screens as well. So you definitely have here, like here's all but blocked vendors. Again, you can build filters. So you can build as many filters as you want on these different things. You can sort any of these columns, but we're talking about Power. Obviously, I can share this with Teams if you use Microsoft Teams to basically send it to a Teams channel. If you had certain information that you wanted to share, and then you've got Edit in Excel, and this is really the powerful one, right? It's not just Edit in Excel; it's also potentially open, please. Thank you. All right, so it's reopening. So what it's doing right now is it's authenticating, getting that data directly out of Business Central. So you can see it's doing that through here. And then if I were to go over here and say contractor ABC, and I want to publish that, it's literally writing back to Business Central. So if I go back to my DC list here, and I were to refresh this list, right? Subcontractor ABC. So nice, I can edit it, but I can also do more than that. I can also enter new ones. So it will do some validations. It will populate some fields that I don't have to populate, right? But you can see the fields across here in the list, right? And I can populate those when I publish. And I come back. There's Cal. It's created that vendor inside of Business Central. Again, you kind of really need to make sure that you have all the information completed and such. But again, very powerful, especially if doing certain things to be able to edit in Excel. And you'll see that on certain transaction lines as well, where you can edit in Excel. So definitely, I think that's one of the things that Microsoft has done really well with PC. So again, if I need to load a bunch of new items, edit in Excel. Web services, they can be exposed, so you can pull the data out of Business Central into Excel. You're basically leveraging the power of Excel. That's still, I think Microsoft is still building out Excel lists for BC, because again, they know that GP users love smart lists. They have that ability to create them. They have the ability to create SQL views, custom SQL views. And so being able to create additional enhanced reporting out of BC is definitely on the roadmap. And if you were to go out on Microsoft's site, you can definitely see what is scheduled, what's coming, when they're going to be released. It's all out there. So you're not having to wait to find out. They really do have a good roadmap out there. So here we're talking about personalizing, it's adding fields, adding save filters. So if you use that filter button, you're able to really start honing in on things here. So here is where it opens up the filters, and then you can have a whole list of filters, which is similar again to smart lists and the save smart lists that have filters, right? This is very similar to that. So you can kind of use it in the same way. Again, the share button, open in Excel, edit in Excel, share to Teams, and the copy link. Copy link is where you're basically copying a link literally for that information, and you can share it with somebody, and as long as they have access to BC as well, then they can jump right into it. Again, it's just a URL. It validates during the publish back, so if you're trying to put in a payables transaction and you're not allowing duplicate document numbers, and it should fail on you, right? Because we don't want to push that in. Again, web services, I'm not going to get into that too much, but they can be exposed to OData and open in Excel. So here's an example of that OData feed. Again, GP has some OData capabilities that they've added in the later years as well. Just not a lot of people use it because you have easier ways to get data out of GP because it's you have access directly to the SQL data. With Business Central, you don't have access to the data, right? They're not going to give you access to the SQL data in any way, shape, or form. It is in Microsoft SQL. It's just they're not going to give you access to it, right? So you got to have other means to get your reporting. So when we're talking about reporting, there are definitely some great solutions that get added to BC that really take it to a whole nother level. So you basically take any data, build your queries in a tool, another tool. There's a couple tools out there that Cosmos is one of them. E1's PopDoc is another that allows you to basically take and select tables, put your joins together, basically like you would with Smart List Builder or something, and then be able to do enhanced reporting. The Cosmos platform adds the ability to do financial reporting as well as subledger reporting. So it's really a complete reporting solution that can be added to BC for people that are really looking to ad hoc reporting that is not in the standard list. That's not something you're going to be able to do with BC out of the box without customizations. So from a simple AP processing point of view, right, the ability to do somebody's job, right? So if I'm on a vendor, I can easily go ahead and create an invoice. So new document, what type of document do I want to create? And you'll see it's kind of a tree effect here. You're similar to GP in that navigation tree, right? So you're able to say, okay, I want to create a purchase invoice. It's going to jump me over that screen. So again, you're just able to do that from there, or I could have just went directly to purchase invoice and clicked it there and created it from there. So again, you have that ability. You can copy documents, you can do all those things. Purchase journal is also a very simple way for some companies to be able to get that information in without having to do individual invoices, right? So there's some abilities there to be able to streamline that. Business Central is very focused on journals, all your different journals, sales journal, purchase journals, general journals, right? Really does that. When it comes to line details, you have recurring purchase lines. You also have recurring sales lines that you can add to a vendor or a customer. And then you just basically, while you're on the transaction, say, okay, add my recurring lines to this transaction. It's not an automated recurring generation. You know, but you are able to add recurring lines to different transactions based on the vendor card, customer card, things like that. Accounts and dimensions is where it becomes very different between GP, right, and Business Central. So we're talking about our chart of accounts. Again, I'm just going to search that up. Very different in that the chart of accounts literally really is it is your presentation of your financial statements as well. You can see the groupings and such. And here all I have is my natural account number, right? I don't have my additional segments. Business Central then creates dimensions. So you have dimensions that you're able to then define, and the dimensions would be your other segments in GP. So you would define your dimensions. Those dimensions would then show up on the transaction. You would fill in those dimensions. There's two global dimensions that can be used throughout the system, and then you have additional dimensions that you can add to that. So that's how, instead of having a sales account and then have 10 different versions of my product lines, in this case, you would have a sales account and then you would have a dimension for your product line, right? And so the same with the department. So that's really how they're accomplishing your reporting, is through the dimensions to get those additional count segments that you would normally have in GP. So that's a big differentiator between BC. So again, I don't have to go and create, if I add one new product line, I don't need to go and create 30 new accounts. I just go and add that dimension, that new product line to that dimension, and now it's available. Three-way processing for AP and purchasing invoices and such, same screen, same process. Again, you can attach files. When you're doing transactions that go from So key differentiator between BC and GP is BC is saving real time as you're doing things. So if you change a field and you tab off that field, that is saved. That save has been committed. When it comes to the transactions themselves, they go from a open to a release to a posted status. Again, a little different terminology. Business Central doesn't have batches like GP does, so it's something to get used to. It's more real time, which is more what most people are used to in the newer cloud solutions. Is that you're not working with batches and then reviewing a batch and then posting the batch. It's definitely different in that regard. You can certainly process check runs short on time here, so I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Again, all the details that you put on an AP bill with all those item details are going to show up in the general ledger for ease of reporting. So definitely some high visibility there. Purchase invoices, again, one screen, copy document. Again, everything is in these different action buttons. So you're really able to do all different functionalities depending on what you're here. You got recurring, get your recurring lines, copy a document, calculate the invoice taxes. So again, you have quite a bit of functionality there. It's already in. Again, this was the Navision platform. They basically made it now Business Central because now it's all cloud-based versus being on-premise like GP is. Okay, big difference here. Obviously, GP printed reports and forms, right? We've got GP's report writer that hasn't changed in, I don't know, 20 years at least. And then they added Word templates, which layer on top of report writer reports, right? So making the ability to make it look more presentable, but without an add-on product for GP, you really are kind of limited in those true reports. Certainly if anybody is struggling with GP reports and something like Forms Printer is a great solution because it can use SSRS, it could use Crystal. I don't think most people use Crystal anymore, but again, you can use other means of generating and basically creating any report you want with a really modern, report engine. So with Business Central, again, we have Word templates, but it's much a better version of Word templates than GP's version of Word templates. So it's much easier to edit those reports, make versions of the reports. Again, much easier. They also allow you to use Microsoft Report Builder like we use with SSRS. And again, you can have multiple versions. You can say a version is for this customer. So you have lots of capabilities there. The one thing that is currently still somewhat of a limitation in Business Central is it uses data sets in the reports, and you can't join to other tables like you might be used to, even with GP report writer, right? So if the data that you're looking for to add to that report is not there, then typically right now today we would have to do a small customization to add that data point to the data set that's in the report, so that way you can then drag that field on and do whatever you want to do. So again, it's all improving all the time. Every year Microsoft's making lots of improvements to Business Central, and I expect this will get better too as well. But again, there are ISVs, just like Forms Printer for GP. There's an ISV out there that basically allows you to add a solution to do more ad hoc reporting, where you're basically building those out. Again, customizations aren't that hard. It's just, it would be required, right? Again, GP Smart List, Business Central has its lists. So if we're looking at the BC lists, and so if I just type in lists, right, there are 50 lists. And so, so for people that are, I think a big one typically for purchase lines. So here we have purchase lines list. Again, because it's an existing list, this could be exposed to OData. You can obviously share it out to Excel. So one of the things that I haven't talked about yet, and didn't put in my PowerPoint, and I apologize for that, a newer feature that is on the vendors. It's throughout this, I'm sorry, it's throughout the entire application, something that just recently added, which is this analyze button, right? So if I'm on the vendors and I go to analyze mode, then basically it puts it into this, and you can save as many different versions of this once you go into analyze mode, and basically you're being, so maybe I want to group by, maybe if I had a class or something, I don't know. So basically you're able to grab one of these columns here, drag it down, and now it's grouping and it's showing, and it's got subtotals. And so again, you can do that within these. If I go to my invoices, probably a better solution show. Yeah, I don't have a lot of demo data in here. Purchase invoice list. That's you. That's a better example. So historical general rows, so posted general journal lines. Okay, my demo data is not working. All right, well, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but the analyze not only gives you the ability to kind of represent the data, move columns around within this screen itself, do subtotaling, but then you can also turn into pivot mode. Again, this is its first iteration, but now you can do groupings within here. So I got my rows, I can potentially put columns. So, right, so you're basically doing pivoting within BC, right? And then you can save these if you want to. I can copy, I can duplicate them and then change them. So the whole ability to kind of, again, present the data more usable more quickly is really the goal. So did want to touch upon that. Again, here is Copilot again within the screens. So that way you can pretty much put some type of analysis logic onto the screen to analyze this data and then be able to reuse it. Again, they're really trying to build that usability into the solution. So GP, most of our clients are using Management Reporter or some other financial report writer tool. So Business Central does have a financial report writer built into it. Like financial statements. So they're using column row definitions as well. Similar to, I would say that let me try and change my role. Then make it a lot easier to find what I'm looking for. And again, you would not be able to do this unless you had security access to that, right? So if your user didn't have access to all that financial data, then they're not going to be able to get there, right? But by me changing my role and go back to my home page, you can see everything across the top has changed. Like financial reporting. Here's financial statements. So here I got I can drill into it. I got row definition, column definition. Again, you can change those, copy them, edit them. By print, it's real time inside of BC. We have no data marts. We're not storing data somewhere else and synchronizing. You can do some of the things. You don't have drill back capabilities yet. Again, that's something that I expect will happen. But today these are just static reports. I guess with the again, other solutions out there, you definitely have more. But when you do have the ability to export those reports, so I'll show you that in a second. I have a picture of that again. But there's no more data mart, no syncing issues. Business Central integrations, obviously XXL, Power BI, auditing. So auditing changes, GP without another add-on, there's very little in the way of other than maybe who changed, what user changed something last and when, but you don't really know what it is. Business Central has full chain log capabilities and field level audits, so you can turn that on and you would literally know real time. Obviously, you want to be You don't want to just turn it on for everything, because obviously it's going to eat up a lot of disk space, but you do have the ability to turn on audit logs and who changed what when. And so that's a big thing, that something that GP doesn't have without, again, an ISV solution that's built into BC. Again, Micro leverages Report Builder, which is a very powerful report designer. Again, the only limitation today is that you're stuck with the data sets without you can't customize those data sets yet. List can be personalized. Again, financial statements, you can create as many as you want, all in BC using the column row sets and unit sets. Unit sets would be your dimensions. Here's an example of how you export the financial statement. Once you get to the report, you can export PDF, XML, Word documents. You can do Excel data and layout, or just data only. Again, so nice that you can do all of that from within the application without having to go out to a separate application. Automations, GP, very little without add-ons, right? So integration manager, smart connect, there's posting tools out there. Workflow, which has the ability to do approvals, post transactions through the workflow. 18.5 approvals can originate from email approvals. A lot of this is built into BC already. BC does have AP document recognition. It uses the one that's built into BC uses a platform that was with Nav before, and so you can sign up with that solution and then it would work. But there's a lot of great solutions out there in the app source to be able to add true AP automations. A lot of capabilities there. Outlook plugin, something that comes with BC, is an Outlook plugin that you can add, and when you add it, right, you have the ability to. So I can push an email in, and it can try and create a sales quote, a sales invoice, sales order, credit memo, purchase invoice, purchase order. Again, so I think for people that are sales organizations, this can be a nice feature. Obviously, I would need to be a contact under either a customer or a vendor, and then that would allow me to attempt to create that inside of BC. Notifications. It has a full notification. You build out your notifications, how you want those to work. It's going to work. Obviously, it works with the Office stack for emailing capabilities. Again, when it comes to integrations, outside of those Excel, edit in Excel, and things of that nature, you're really looking at either someone building out a solution that has an integration, which there are a lot of solutions that have built-in integrations to BC already, because again, it is building out the whole API set, so that way it's really the ability to communicate with other cloud-based solutions is really being built out. And then there are a whole slew of ISV solutions out there in App Source. And then I think something that is significantly overlooked, but is a huge positive with BC, if you're comfortable with Power Automate, that's really where you can jump into a lot of enhanced approvals, automations, things of that nature. So if I were to create a new document for this given vendor, right, you'll see automate, and you'll see a button here for Power Automate, which again is another Microsoft platform where you can basically build out your whole approval workflow. And you can also have actions happen, right? So if somebody, again, it's a very powerful tool. And so you can really start to automate things using Power Automate with BC. So it's not truly inside of the solution. BC is built to work with Power Automate. Again, there's the Outlook plugin. And with that, I just want to say, obviously, GP's definitely it's here, but we know that its time is going to happen at some point. Microsoft is, they're certainly slowing down. So, what is the next solution for you? With that, Jen, I don't know if we have any questions that we want to field now.
Thanks, John. One person was wondering if BC has project accounting.
It has a jobs module in 2023 and prior, and in 2024 they renamed it a project module. So it is a project module, more designed around job costing, but it certainly has, it's full featured throughout the application and integrated, yes.
Great. Another one, well, just another question in general. If somebody wanted to look a little bit closer at Business Central to see if it's a good fit for them, what would be your recommendations for your next steps?
I think everyone is different, but certainly having a conversation about really what your needs are, what you're using with GP, what are the key aspects of your business, and how does BC fit well with that? I mean, really, you need to look at, there is no, Microsoft does not have a true like migration tool from GP to BC. So it's a full new implementation of a new ERP. You want to get the most out of that solution. You don't want to be, so you really need to evaluate what your needs are as a company and be able to say, okay, is Business Central the right solution for us? What is the right solution? Again, that's why we chose to have two different solutions. We have Business Central and Acumatica, because all companies are different, right? If you're a small user base and you have lots of needs and a lot of modules, then BC is a really cost-effective, full-featured solution that you get a lot in that user license. For $70 a user per month, you get a lot of features. You get the project module, you get purchasing, inventory, sales orders. Obviously, everything is included in that price. So it's a really, but everybody's different. Every company is different depending on what you have for your needs.
Thank you. Another question. If you move from GP to Business Central, can you take all your historical data with you? Will it import all your data?
No,
Okay.
it would be a big effort to try and, because again, two systems, the back ends of the two systems are not the same, right? So there's a couple of solutions out there. One is by E1, their PopDoc solution. So basically you take the data out of GP, you push it out to the data lake, Azure, or one of those platforms like that. And then you add it gets added, PopDoc gets added as an app in BC. So you're able to go out and look at your historical data. Within PopDoc, PopDoc has the ability to actually, if you have commonality between the two data sets, right, then you can put all that data into one list to show basically in the same list for the same customer. I could see GP sales and then I could see BC sales in the same list. So that's really how that gets accomplished versus trying to actually transform the GP data and make it fit into BC's, which would be a significant level of effort. Is it doable? Yes, but it's not what most people will do.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That seems to be all the questions we have for now. If you have further questions or you think about it, reach out to John or Stacy or anyone at Cal and they can help answer those in the meantime. So thank you,
Yeah.
everybody, for joining us. Thank you, John, for the great presentation. I'll make sure I send out the recording as soon as it's done processing also.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great day.
Thanks.